Welcome to another episode of The Off-Market Operator. I am your host, Cole Ruud-Johnson. I have been in real estate for years, met a lot of really cool people, and this episode is very unfortunately, talking about one of my buddies, someone I talk to off and on, and I've got a chance to spend a lot of time with in person, Artem Tepler, who recently has passed. Yeah, this is going to go through, hopefully get through to a lot of people who are struggling right now, where the real estate market's at right now. So without further ado, let's get into the show. Well, I've recorded about 50, 60 episodes of this podcast now, and never a show like this. This show is not going to be tactics. I think this is going to be something that needs to be talked about. I'm not big on posting people's names online when tragedy happens, unless there's a purpose. And I think between the GoFundMe and everything of the nature, there's lessons to be learned through this situation. And I met Artem, who now everyone has learned has tragically passed on Wednesday. I think the evidence seems to be that he took his own life, but obviously there's a lot of speculation around the events that transpired, the reasons and things of that nature, which I'm not going to speculate on. I think I want to first talk about who I learned that Artem was over the time that I knew him and our conversations and things of that nature. So back in 2021, March of 21, I went to a company retreat, Sun River, Oregon. We skied and snowmobiled for a week, and we invited Artem, my partner, Tucker Merrihew, was a partner of mine in one of my companies that we started together. Artem was in Tucker's mastermind for a long, long time, way before he had Twitter or anything else, and he wasn't on social media this time, so I didn't really know who he was. But he showed up and just was a pure ambition, but was playing big. And he made it pretty clear early on he was an immigrant and felt like he had nothing to lose and was shooting for the stars. He wasn't interested in flipping houses, which he started out doing. He wanted to build massive buildings and told me his plans and was just a visionary and what he wanted to do, what he wanted with a bar he wanted to set for himself and his family. We hung out all week, skied, snowmobiled, had dinners. We had a chef, and it was an incredible experience. Got to know him really well. And one of my favorite memories now of Artem was he was the reason I was able to get my wife's wedding ring, her dream ring, for her so easily. He was wearing this watch, and one of my dream watches, when I was there with him, and I was asking him who got it for him, and he introduced me to his buddy out of New Jersey who did jewelry and in a very, very fair and realistic and accurate price. And that's who I use for my wedding ring. So now every time I look at my wife's ring, I'll think of Artem. And I think as entrepreneurs, especially in real estate, we live in this world, especially online. I talk about this a lot. We see, the people we interact with on Twitter, the guys that are reaching for the stars and talking about it, is 0.0001% of the overall landscape of business. I mean, there's so many people getting punched in the face every day. And a lot of people don't share that stuff. And so I think one thing I've seen the community, at least where Artem really became a kind of a micro celebrity with his 30,000+ followers, and everyone in the real estate community that was on there, Twitter, LinkedIn, began to know who he was. And one thing I learned is every single person on the app gets kicked in the teeth. And I already knew that, but I think it's changed the atmosphere to be a lot more vulnerable. And I've started doing that across my social media, as I was understanding that, yes, even myself, I sell programs, but making sure you're not selling the dream of, again, business on paper is easy. It's the reality of, in this situation, it's the reality of personal guarantees. It's the reality of bankruptcy can happen. I mean, you're taking big risks. And that's what every business owner does, is you take massive risks. And I really hope that people see this and they start to really think through their ambition, not to decrease their ambition, but to think through why they're doing what they do. Because I think through the last 10 years, and I'm young, I haven't been an entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur 7 years, so I haven't seen a ton of market cycles, but it's the way I'm wired. It's not a choice. And for Artem, it's the same thing. He didn't choose to be an entrepreneur. He was wired that way. He woke up and wanted to grow companies and take risk. And I hope this is eye-opening for a lot of people who are trying, and it might be okay that running a massive business and taking on massive amounts of risk isn't for you, because it's not for everyone. And it was for Artem. But even for the people that are wired that way, it can still get very, very dark. And clearly he did not see another path out. So this is not an episode meant to, right? The positives are there is a community of people online that you can reach out to almost anyone, and you can get, text messages, phone calls, people that support you when you're going through hard stuff. But I think what we really have to do with how connected the world is now is actually bring resources to the table and help people who are going through situations like this, because the reality is the market has turned its funky and a lot of people are getting their ass kicked. Like absolute ass kicked. The guys that show the brightest stuff on Instagram that I meet in person, a lot of times they're getting their ass kicked the most behind the scenes. And so I've tried to be more and more real with that recently. And after I posted about Artem on my story, just kind of begging people, hey, like this is part of business. Like losing with how much risk you're taking, how many wins you get, you're going to get kicked in the ass, and that's going to be a different degree for everyone. Everyone's going to go through a bankruptcy or go through personal guarantees defaulting or go through that kind of stuff, but you're going to get kicked in the ass over and over again, and I do as well, and I try to share that. But I got a ton of texts, tons of DMs, tons of phone calls from people in my coaching groups, people that I just know and met online, saying, hey, like I've been in that dark place where the pressure of failing and publicly brought that the better option was not to be here anymore. And so if you're listening to the show and you're in that place, or you've been in that place, or you might end up in that place, understand that your net worth is not your human worth. Your money comes and goes. You can always make money. It is literally just imaginary numbers, and it's important. And obviously, it's great to have the money security and the freedom that it brings, but it's not worth your life, no matter what the situation is, because you can always rebuild. And I think so many entrepreneurs, they tie their identity so closely to their business, and it's hard. And I put out shows on that before. It's hard not to, but you want to have a diverse life where a lot of things, you rest your identity on a lot of things, not just, how much money you have, what's your net worth, and what are you building. And the online world can make that incredibly hard, really incredibly hard. But I think one thing we have to do is, as you get calls from friends or you see them online talking about their struggles with how the markets turn in any business, is come to the table, with more than just texts and phone calls. And I'm regretful. I was receiving texts from Artem as recently as 2 weeks ago, talking about he wanted my help pivoting a little bit to make some money and to utilize his construction services and build a business around that. And I could have easily got on the phone with him, had a conversation, and offered him, a cold caller for free for a month or 2 months, and helped him figure that out rather than just send him texts and give him small bits of advice. And that's one thing I'm determined to do more of, is when people are hurting or struggling and it's evident to me, I'm getting on the phone and not just saying, oh, you're going to be okay, everything's going to work out, stick around, but offering tangible help, so they know that if rock bottom does hit, they're not sitting there with no one to help them. Because the reality is, people do want to help, but a lot of times they won't. The people who are hurting won't ask for help. Especially Artem. Artem was a hard-nosed, ambitious immigrant, badass entrepreneur whose identity, and I knew him, and he wouldn't mind probably sharing this. And we weren't best friends, but yeah, I just don't. He did ask for help. I think everyone posted that on Twitter. He was asking for help and reaching out for advice, but truly in the sense of, hey, is there an opportunity with you if this goes south, and to see an end of the tunnel where no matter what happens, he can get back up on his feet and provide for his family, because he did have a young daughter and a fiance. So it's rough, man. It's rough. You'll see online everywhere about Artem Tepler, and a lot of people have posted about him who have known him. He's made a massive impact on the real estate community, on myself with our interactions in person and online, how he played big and went for it. And if you're going to go for it, that's awesome. That's what being an entrepreneur in America, the country we're blessed to live in, is about. But make sure you have a support system. There's no reason to do it alone, especially with how connected we all are through online. And I've met so many good people that just through online, but in real life at events, that you can build a network and make sure you have people there to support you as you go for it, because it's hard. Like I say it all the time, but 98% of the time you're going to feel like you're losing. 2% of the time you're going to feel like 96% of the time you're going to feel like you're losing. 2% of the time you're going to feel like you might be on the right path, maybe. And then 2% of the time you're going to feel like you're winning. And to me, that bottom 2% is worth it. It makes it all worth it. And I love the failures and struggles and obstacles. That's what makes it a game, and what makes it meaningful, because all meaningful things are hard, but there's risk to it. And every entrepreneur wakes up every single day, no matter how big their business is, with the risk of, someone's coming after your business, and you got to stay alive. You got to fight. And unfortunately, Artem did not win that fight. Not that he didn't win that fight, but he had so much life ahead of him and didn't get all the way through to the other side. And if you're watching this, you're in that place, keep going. A lot of times, not only will you get through it, but you'll look back on that as a meaningful time where you learned a lot, and it benefited you a lot more in the future. In our country too, if you're going through a bankruptcy, or you're considering it, that's your only option. I haven't personally been through one, but I know a lot of people who have, and it's a tool for the entrepreneur in America to reset and rebuild. And it's not the end of the road, not the end of the world. And if you're in the real estate game, you're going to get your ass kicked once in a while. It's just the reality of it. I know plenty of guys that lost it all in 08, some that came very close to bankruptcy, some that did, more that did than did not, and rebuilt again. Because again, it's the skills and character you build in entrepreneurship that serve you in the long haul, not just the money. And if you have the skills, character, and connections, you can rebuild as often as you want, and usually quicker, with that experience, with that wisdom, with those connections and those relationships. So hard one today, but I hope you guys took a few things out of it. And of course, rest in peace, Artem. And there is a GoFundMe out that I will circulate on the description of this podcast if you want to give to his young daughter and fiance as they navigate the world post what has transpired. That was obviously a tough one to film today. I hope you guys were able to get something out of this, as all there is left now in the situation is lessons and memories. And yeah, if you guys at all, again, I know this is a tougher episode, but this show is something I'm pouring a lot of time into. So if you do enjoy anything I put out on the show at all, I'd ask you a favor to share this episode, because I'm going to link the description to the GoFundMe on here to support Artem's family through what's coming with funeral and everything else. So I will be back with another show as planned on the Mondays and Thursdays as always, but this one's definitely a harder one. So as always, I'm still going to say you are one deal away, but don't let that deal, if it goes south, be the thing that makes you believe you're not supposed to be here anymore. So thanks for sticking around, and I will see you next time.